I've just started a recording just so that this can go on YouTube. Just a quick thing, I am working from home this week, so if you hear a train, that's just because I live by a train station or by the tracks. And then I also have a puppy, so if you hear him playing with his deer antler, that's what he's doing. But let's get started here. Of course, it's the one time I start talking that he gets like the zoomies. Okay. And I do have chat popped up, so if you guys do have any questions throughout this, I should be able to see them. I won't answer them right away just because I'm going through the presentation and sometimes that can be a little hard. So I do have about halfway through a moment for us to discuss some questions and then also at the end as well. So let me get started. And let me minimize myself. Here. Okay, so as we get started, this class is mainly focusing just on the FODMAP diet and what it consists of, as well as some things like label reading, as well as some apps that can make things a little bit easier if you do try to do the FODMAP diet. And so I know the question stands, can you still eat your favorite foods with FODMAP? And the answer is a resounding yes. The FODMAP diet can be intimidating because of all of the foods that seem to be off limits. But remember that if you do go on the FODMAP diet, this restriction is temporary. And the food industry has honestly grown so much that there are alternatives for low FODMAP foods and okay for people that are on the FODMAP diet to consume. And we'll be going into this a little bit as well as we go out throughout the presentation. So just some reminders about this class is that this class does not cover everything regarding the FODMAP diet. And this is just mainly an overview of main concepts and recipe ideas to increase your quality of life. And serving size is briefly addressed in this presentation, but is something to consider as it can alter the FODMAP content of foods. So really watching portion sizes to make sure you are consuming the portion that is on the nutrition facts label. And if you want any more information, feel free to consult registered dietitian Amanda Allen, who is my preceptor, for more information. Okay. So what are FODMAPs? They are fermentable oligosaccharides, disaccharides, monosaccharides, and polyols, which we'll be getting into a little bit more in depth farther on in this presentation. But overall, these are short chain carbohydrates that are naturally found in foods with sugar or fiber. So they're not man-made, they are not put in foods, they're just naturally found. And unfortunately, some people with like IBS or IBD, our guts do not absorb these carbs properly. And because they're not absorbed properly, this can cause discomfort in the gut or bloating, loose stools, a reflux like GERD, like that heartburn feeling, as well as pain. So the people that are here today, what has prompted you into looking into trying the FODMAP diet? Let me put my chat up too, if you guys can chat. If not, that's okay. Feel free to, there we go. Yes, so with IBS and IBS symptoms, the main reason is because of these FODMAPs, just these foods that have these short chain carbohydrates that just do not absorb in the gut at all. So if he is looking for some kind of relief, the low FODMAP diet might be an option for him. And yeah, some abdominal discomfort symptoms, you know, it's not fun. And when you want to eat what you want to eat and then you feel really bad, you're like, what can I do? So hopefully this presentation will, and the future presentations as well within this class series, will help you guys figure out maybe some tips and tricks and then kind of guide you along the FODMAP diet as well. So like I said, FODMAPs are fermentable. So this is gut bacteria that feeds and ferments on undigested carbohydrates to produce gas. A lot of people mainly think of beans just because it causes that gassiness. But people with IBS or IBD, this can happen with those short chain carbohydrates that aren't absorbed. So all of these ones. So oligosaccharides, which are fructans and something called GOS, these are found in wheat, rye, barley. Onions are a really big one. Garlic is also a really big one. Legumes like beans, lentils, inulin, which is a type of fiber found in like asparagus, pistachios, cashews, and beetroot as well. Then we have our disaccharides, which is mainly our lactose sugar and dairy products. So some examples of this are milk, some soft cheeses, yogurt, and some ice cream as well. We also have monosaccharides, which is fructose, which is mainly found in fruit and honey. Honey can be hidden a lot of the times in different products. And we also have to think of that high fructose corn syrup that is usually in highly processed foods like candy and whatnot. And is just, to help the acronym. And then also polyols, which are mainly found in cauliflower, mushrooms, avocados, watermelon, peas, and sugar alcohols. Sugar alcohols are, I think, the worst contender just because sugar alcohols are usually found in foods that are sugar-free. And they are just a substitute to give that sweetness with pulling out that sugar. And if you ever see foods or drinks that say sugar-free, they probably have sugar alcohols in them. And I know this seems like a lot, but we'll kind of go through how we go through the FODMAP diet and also some alternative foods as well that are on the shelves either at Walmart or Hy-Vee or wherever you shop as well. So I want you guys to think of a bucket analogy. So everyone is different when it comes to tolerance or different short chain carbohydrates. So let's say you have a bucket and think of the bucket as a representation of your body and what your gut can handle. And when someone has these GI issues, their bucket is smaller compared to someone that doesn't have these GI issues or doesn't have IBS or IBD. And so it can be a lot more easy for someone with IBS or IBD for their bucket to overflow. So different foods that you might eat, like those sugar alcohols, some types of fruits and veggies, if you have some dairy, that can cause your bucket to fill so much faster and kind of overspill. And that overspilling is really when we have the issue with the discomfort, abdominal pain, bloating, cramping, just all those not fun symptoms. And so I would like to say, though, that there is a middle ground where some may tolerate some short chain carbs. So you might be able to have lactose, or you might be able to have different kinds of fruits, and you might just be intolerant to one or the other. And this is where the FODMAP diet comes into play, where we're trying to figure out which ones are really bothering you. So we're kind of picking and choosing and deciding which ones are bothering our gut personally. And that's why the FODMAP diet is also so individualized. And so finding this happy medium is kind of where we start the FODMAP diet in something called the elimination phase. And like I said, it's not all black and white. There is some middle ground. And I just want you guys to think either about yourself or significant others or anyone else that you may know that may be suffering from this, about what the hardest part about the FODMAP diet may be. Okay. So I really want to reiterate that the FODMAP diet is not forever. We have the elimination phase, which I think is the hardest part, where we're going to eliminate all of those different short chain carbs that could bother our stomach and overflow our bucket. And that's going to take about 2 to 6 weeks. So about a month. And depending on the person, it could be less time or it could be more time. It just depends on the sensitivity as well. Then we have a reintroduction phase, which is 8 to 12 weeks. And this reintroduction phase can only happen when all symptoms have subsided. So from the elimination phase, remember, we're going to remove all the short chain carbohydrates. So those fermentable, those oligosaccharides, disaccharides, monosaccharides, and polyols. We're going to wait for our gut to kind of heal, and we don't have that bloating, cramping, abdominal pain. And once that started to subside and completely subsided, we're going to start that reintroduction phase of 8 to 12 weeks, where we're going to maybe pick one of those 5, the fermentable, oligo, di, mono, and polyols. We're going to pick one of them and then reintroduce them and see if they're going to bother us. If they do, just getting those out of the diet and waiting about 2 weeks for those symptoms to resubside, and then trying a different one. And then once we go through that reintroduction phase, which the 8 to 12 weeks should cover all 5, the integration phase is going to be your foods permanently come back into the diet, and that's going to be with no bloating or cramping. And so you're going to feel so much better, and a weight's just going to be taken off of you because you don't have to deal with that anymore. And now you know what foods bother you and what foods don't bother you. Okay, so this is just kind of, again, a picture representation of the different phases, where phase 1, elimination, 2 to 6 weeks, where you can meet with a dietitian, and you guys are going to focus on low FODMAP foods. Keep the portion sizes small. The reason that we want to keep the portion sizes small is because sometimes too much of an ingredient can cause a flare-up. And then we want to make sure that we're staying hydrated. This is just to help our body function in general, as well as help heal our gut and our intestines and make sure it's all hydrated. For our phase 2 for reintroduction, this is going to, like I said, that 8 to 12 weeks where, you can meet with a dietitian if you want, or if you think that you're doing okay, you can just keep going. And this is where we're going to reintroduce those individual FODMAP categories to identify which you can tolerate and which trigger your symptoms. So like I said, maybe fruit doesn't bother you, but dairy does. The reason that we do this reintroduction is to see which ones do really bother you. With phase 3, which is 12 weeks on, this is basically the rest of your life. You can still meet with your dietitian as needed for follow-ups to make sure everything is still going okay. And integrating the FODMAP foods that you tolerate back into your regular normal diet so that everything kind of mellows out and it's all over with. So in the grand scheme of things, it's not too long. In the time that you are doing this diet, it may seem like a really long time and it may seem really hard. But I want you guys to remember that this is going to be for a lifelong happiness to be able to eat the foods that you want to eat without having that issue. Okay. I'm going to look at questions if there's any. So for polyols, we're going to really get rid of sugar alcohols that are man-made. And so those are going to be like aspartame, which I think is personally the worst, sucralose as well. I can't remember if Splenda is allowed. Stevia, I think, is allowed, but I'll have to go look at that. But there are some that are naturally found in the wild, which is like stevia, which is something that dietitians recommend over other sugar alcohols, as well as a new one called allulose, which allulose is actually a sugar alcohol derived from raisins and prunes. It's pretty cool. And it doesn't have as much of an effect on your GI. I know with sugar alcohols, it can still affect anyone. If anyone has too many sugar alcohols, it can still cause that GI, discomfort and bloating and, going to the bathroom more often and that diarrhea. But it can just be amplified with those with IBS and IBD. So if I were to recommend a sugar alcohol, I would recommend either stevia, or I would recommend allulose, which is a newer one on the market. Any other questions? Oh, wait, hold on one second. My thing will scroll. Yes, so those foods that I was talking about during the FODMAPs are going to be ones that he's going to want to avoid. And a little bit later in my presentation, I do talk about apps that you guys can download on your phones. And I think that it makes the process of figuring out foods that are good, kind of iffy, and really bad a lot easier. And we'll go into that a little bit more, but for that FODMAP kind of chart, those are going to be the foods that he's going to want to avoid. If you guys have any other questions, again, feel free to ask in chat. At the end, I will also be going over some as well. I'll be going over questions at the end. Okay. So there we go. Okay, so now we're going to be talking a little bit about label reading. So this is really important because high FODMAP ingredients can sneak into items. The biggest ones that I can think of are onion, garlic, and that can be just garlic, garlic powder, any kind of derivative of garlic or onion, honey as a sweetener, and then something called inulin. Inulin is a fiber that's naturally found in a lot of vegetables, or some vegetables like asparagus, and it can be added to more health-like foods in order to increase our fiber intake. So that is one to kind of be aware of. But it's really nice because Monash, who created the FODMAP diet and kind of discovered that it was a thing, has this like seal of approval where it says that it's Monash University low FODMAP certified. And this is a great option because they've been tested in the lab. The food has been tested in the lab, and it's been shown that it does not have those high FODMAP foods in them, especially at the portion size that it's recommended at. And many high FODMAP ingredients can be found in items like salsas, like the garlic powder, onion powder, salad dressings, as well as pasta sauces. The recipe that I'm making today, I'm actually using a brand called FODY, which is FODY, and it is Monash certified. And I don't know if you guys can see, but they have a whole bunch of different products. They've got oils, they've got barbecue sauces, they've got salad dressings, they've got salsas, and then they've also got granola bars, and they have pasta sauces. And they are Monash certified, like I said, and they taste really good. Like they taste like normal products. I've tried the salsa so far. I've tried the olive oil, which actually is infused with garlic, and that's what makes it friendly. The infusion isn't a high enough amount to bother the gut, so you still get a little bit of that garlic taste. And I've tried the barbecue sauce, and they're all really good. I'm going to be recommending them to people that aren't even necessarily on the FODMAP diet. I think that they're pretty nice. And that's where those FODMAP friendly options are available, is like the FODY. There are some other ones that I just can't think of at the moment, but it's a great brand that you can find in the health market at Hy-Vee. I'm sure you could possibly find it at Walmart, but I know for sure that it is found in Hy-Vee at the in the health market. So Monash has theirs, but there also is a little label as well that is approved food product and FODMAP friendly. And they're usually found not on the front of the package, but on the back of the package, just in case you guys are looking and then find those. Another option to help overall is just a food diary and logging what kinds of foods you have. So that way, if you do have like a bad day and you're in that kind of reintroduction phase and you're trying to figure out what foods do bother you and what foods don't bother you, keeping a food diary and, you know, at the end of the day, be like, man, I really don't feel good. Something I ate today really bothered me. You could refer back to that food diary or that food journal to figure out what could have caused that. And then do you guys have any tips or tricks that you have when it comes to label reading? Feel free to put them in the comments to share with everyone else. Okay. So I wanted to talk about some examples. So right down here, I have Tostitos salsa. And then on the right, I have the FODMAP salsa. So when looking at the Tostito salsa, if you're looking at the ingredients list, you're just going to kind of scan through it, and things that are in here that could bother someone with IBS or IBD and are on the FODMAP diet is this onions and garlic powder. I swear, after researching this, onions and garlic powder and honey are, I feel like, in a lot of products. So just really making sure you're looking for these. When we look at the FODMAP salsa instead, tomatoes are always good to go. The jalapeno peppers are also good. Bell peppers are also good to have. The apple cider vinegar gives it that nice kind of kick. That's probably, missing from like the onions or garlic powder. And then cilantro, lime juice, concentrate, as well as cumin. Cumin doesn't bother IBS or IBD while on the low FODMAP diet. And so if you want to add that into like your cooking, I like to add it to chicken. I'll put salt, pepper, and cumin on it, especially if I'm going to have like a Tex-Mex night. I'm going to have the FODMAP salsa. I'll have my cumin, salt, pepper, chicken. And then I'll also have things like cilantro. Cheeses that are harder, like cheddar cheese, are okay to have as well. And then you can have peppers with it and just omit the onions as like your vegetables. So I know it can seem daunting, but there are some easier ways to integrate it into the diet for sure. Another example I have is our granola bars. So I have the FODMAP peanut butter chocolate quinoa, which I haven't tried, but sounds so good. And then I have it against the Kind bar, which is a dark chocolate nuts and sea salt. I put these ones together because the FODMAP and the Kind bar are actually the same price. They're both, I think, $1.99. And so this is just a representation to where you can still get products that you like for not more money. So for here, for the FODMAP, we have peanuts, and then we also have dry roasted almonds. I have this bolded just because if you are dealing with issues of oligosaccharides, this might be an issue, but it is in such a small amount that it should not bother you if you just have one bar. Organic brown rice syrup is kind of that substitute for that high fructose corn syrup. Semi-sweet chocolate is good to have. Quinoa is also great to have. Peanut butter is fine to have as well. And then we've got like sunflower, tocopherol, which is like a vitamin E. Comparing this to our Kind bar, the first ingredient is almonds, and it's in a higher amount compared to a significant higher amount compared to the FODMAP bar. So that's a little bit too much. Then we got peanuts. Chicory root fiber is that inulin that I was talking about. Honey, that's their high fructose corn syrup substitute. So, that's something that is really big on the low FODMAP diet to not have. And then it also has glucose syrup. So that's just really high concentrated sugar. I like to think of it almost as like a high fructose corn syrup, but in a different form. So glucose syrup is just going to be a little bit too high of a sugar content. But FODMAP has a whole bunch of different types of bars. I think on Hy-Vee's website, I found like 5 or 6 different ones. They've got like a mint one, I think. They've got this peanut butter chocolate. They just have a straight chocolate one. And they all look really good. Okay, so when we're talking about label reading, I know for me, you think, well, what about fruits and veggies? Because they don't have labels. And because they don't have any labels, this can be trickier to navigate. So we're going to utilize some apps on our phone that I'm going to talk about on the next slide. And this is individualized per person, like I said. I know it just depends on the person, and it really just takes that elimination phase where all of your symptoms subside, where you start to reintroduce, where you'll notice a really big difference. And if you guys want to learn more about fruits and veggies that are FODMAP friendly, feel free to attend my class on March 3rd, where we're going to talk about more information on low FODMAP fruits and vegetables as well. And I know that this presentation might be a little overwhelming, but I really want you guys to not lose hope. There are so many apps that are on the market for you guys to utilize, which gives easy access to what foods are okay and which ones are not. So I'm going to move on to that because I think that this is a really beneficial part, and that's the phone apps. So these apps are available on both Apple and Android markets. And there is a Monash one, which is the bottom one, which is the Monash University Low FODMAP Diet app. This one does cost, it is $9, and the reviews are honestly not the best on the Google Play Store. And it just seems like it needs to be updated a little bit to be more user-friendly. And don't get it wrong, Monash is very reputable. They're the ones that created the FODMAP diet. I think they just need a little bit of help in the technology department. However, when I was searching for apps, I did find an app called FODMAP A to Z, which is my personal favorite. This one, like I said, is also available on both platforms. And this allows you to just type in whatever foods you want, and then it'll give you either a green, as in good to go, a yellow, which usually means you just need to watch your portion size, or a red, which is it's no go for one of the five. This app is also free. And I personally utilized this when I was searching a couple of the ingredients in my recipe for today, as well as recipes in the future as well. So like I said, green is good to go and is free or is low FODMAP or FODMAP friendly. Yellow is to consume with caution and watch your portion controls. And red means it will most likely upset your stomach if you're sensitive to that particular short chain carbohydrate. So for example, I have in my recipe today, I use a Greek yogurt. Those that have an issue with lactose wouldn't be able to use a Chobani yogurt, but instead I would recommend like a coconut yogurt or an almond yogurt, because almond yogurt is good to go because it is in such a small amount, or a lactose-free yogurt. So this app is a great visual if you want to avoid foods, or if you're in the grocery store and you're like, oh, I don't know if this is FODMAP friendly or not. It's really easy to kind of pick up your phone, type it in, and it'll tell you right away. So if you guys have any other apps or other items that you use to help navigate low FODMAP foods, feel free to put them in the chat as well. So I wanted to end this presentation with what to do in worst case scenarios. So say you're out somewhere and you have something and you're like, uh-oh, this had something that I'm not supposed to have in it. There are some products on the market, usually found in pharmacy, to help with these kinds of situations. And so these items are things like Beano, Lactaid, digestive enzymes, peppermint oil, and regular girl. And so most of these products you do take before you eat them, or if you start eating them and then you decide, oh man, I messed up. You can take these then as well. And this can be incorporated with some high FODMAP foods that you might eat. And we just want to make sure that this isn't a long-term kind of put a Band-Aid over the problem. This is just, if something happens where you do consume something that is high FODMAP and you just need kind of a quick fix. So Beano is mainly used for when you have beans or legumes like lentils. Lactaid is going to be if you have a lactose intolerance and you eat something with lactose in it, like milk or any kind of dairy. Digestive enzymes you can take before, and these actually help with all short chain carbs. So these just help your stomach or your intestines kind of digest things that it normally wouldn't. It's almost like it gets a little bit of like a boost, like your gut enzymes get a little bit of a boost with digestive enzymes, and you take that one right before you eat. Peppermint oil can help just kind of soothe the bloating and the cramping and the pain. And then if you are dealing with either constipation or diarrhea as well, Regular Girl has some products out there as well to help keep you regular. All right, so thank you guys for attending. I do stick around because I do have my recipe to share. I'll just kind of switch screens a little bit. But if you guys have any other questions, feel free to put them in the chat while I start making this. My camera is going to go off for just a second, just because my computer's a little strange. Yes, so the diet does recommend no gluten. With this diet, they're going to, a doctor, if they think that you do have IBS or IBD, they might ask you to do a gluten-free diet first, and then switch to the low FODMAP diet if the gluten-free diet did not work. So that is something to consider as well. Okay. So I'm going to be making a barbecue chicken salad for you guys today that is FODMAP friendly. So I'm just going to be holding everything up as I can, just because I have a little bit of a smaller table. So I'm just going to start with a really big bowl. And I've got some spinach here. So spinach is FODMAP friendly. If you don't like spinach, you can of course use lettuce as well. But I like to use spinach just because it's higher in vitamin K and iron. So vitamin K is a fat-soluble vitamin that helps our blood clots, as well as helps our it helps our gut as well kind of function. And then fun fact, spinach actually has more iron in it than red meat. So you're getting some iron in there too. And yes, I will be sending, I can send a copy of the slides, and I will be posting this video to YouTube. And we'll send you guys the link as well. And I will also send you the recipe PDF. Yes, so I do have some recommendations on gluten-free items. Real quick, I'm just going to add some cherry tomatoes to my salad. Tomatoes are good to go. Some gluten-free items that I really like. I really like Jovial. That's the brand. It's Jovial. It's gluten-free and it has the same texture as normal pasta. Like it tastes the same. It feels the same in your mouth. I know sometimes gluten-free pastas can kind of be icky on the tongue. And so, yes, I recommend Jovial. I do have a recommendation for bread. I can't think of it, but I will send it in the post email to this. And then soy sauce, yes. So soy sauce does have to be gluten because soy sauce is usually made with gluten. The gluten-free soy sauce that I know of is something called, is the brand called Tamari, Tamari. And that's a really great option. And I honestly prefer Tamari over other soy sauces. I also have red bell pepper, which is totally fine to have. And I do have a little bit of corn. Corn can be an issue in the oligosaccharide category because I only have about 2 tablespoons for this whole salad. FODMAP, which is where I got this recipe from, says it's fine. But if you just want to omit it just because you just want to be really careful and you're in that elimination phase, feel free to substitute this with like things like cucumbers or olives as well, which are FODMAP friendly. Also, another pasta that's gluten-free that I really like is one called, I think it's Banzo, B-A-N-Z-O. It's a chickpea base. Now, chickpea base wouldn't be FODMAP friendly, just because chickpeas are kind of a bean. But if you're just gluten-free, it has a lot of protein in it as well. Or Banza, that's what it is. And like I showed earlier, this is the FODMAP extra virgin olive oil that's garlic infused. So we carry this at Hy-Vee. FODMAP also has a shallot one as well. I just don't think that they carry it. And it's garlic infused. And like I said, it doesn't have enough garlic in it for it to be an issue. And it really does have a little bit of a garlic flavor to it. So that's what I used on my chicken. And I just cooked my chicken at 375 degrees for about 20 minutes The recipe calls for chicken tenders, but chicken is very hard to find right now. So I used chicken breast instead, which is totally fine. It might just take a little bit more. So I just use that FODMAP olive oil on it. You can use normal olive oil as well. And then I just put salt and pepper on it too. And yes, so oats are naturally gluten-free. So if you go to your oat section and you go to, your quick oats or your steel cut oats, oats are naturally gluten-free. The only grains that have gluten in them are going to be wheat, which is, the main one in our diet, barley and rye. So some brands may have, some brands. So the thing with gluten-free is I feel like no matter what it is, it could be a vegetable and someone would market it as gluten-free. I mean, honestly. Or even this olive oil is marked as gluten-free, even though there's no way that there's any wheat, barley, or rye in it. So oats just naturally don't have any gluten in them. So no reason to worry about that. It's just a marketing scheme. So for my chicken, I do have FODMAP's original barbecue sauce. And this stuff is really good. The things that are in it are tomato puree, apple cider vinegar, raw cane sugar, molasses, which they use instead of honey, organic horseradish, sea salt, natural smoke flavor, and black pepper. So it's really great. And I'm going to use about a half cup. Just pouring it on my chicken, and then I'm just going to mix it with my chicken to put it on my salad. And chicken is a great protein source. It's a really lean protein, and protein, of course, is fine on the FODMAP diet, especially when it's an animal protein. So since chicken is really hard to find right now, another thing that you could use on it that wouldn't be too expensive would be those hard cheeses. So like I said, cheddar is naturally lactose free, which is what the issue is with cheese. It's lactose free, so it's going to be FODMAP friendly. So it's something that you could add on it in addition to the chicken, or if you want to do half and half, you can do that as well. Or you could just completely just do the cheese. So I've got all my chicken. I'm just going to throw that in my salad. And then I'm just going to make the dressing really quick. So like I said, for this recipe, I am using Chobani Greek yogurt. If lactose is an issue, or if you're in the elimination phase, feel free to use a coconut base or an almond base or a lactose free. I know some people asked me before class started about dairy options for those that are allergic to beans as well as nuts. And what I recommend is a lactose free, which is going to be brands like Fairlife, which is actually lactose free by using like reverse osmosis. So they actually pull off all of that lactose, and it's pretty good. I think it tastes like normal milk. Another one is Lactaid, where they pull off the lactose that way too. So I've just got some Greek yogurt. Again, you can use coconut-based yogurt or almond-based yogurt or oat-based yogurt. There's a lot of options, but I'm just going to squeeze some lime juice into here. Lime juice and lemon juice are totally fine on the FODMAP diet as well. So I'm going to squeeze about 2 tablespoons. I'm just going to mix this all up. And it's really important to have like a salad dressing on your salads, just because it's, we really want like a fat on our salads. And that's just because we want to, feel full throughout the day. And that fat helps us feel full throughout the day, especially mixed with things like protein and our veggies as well. So don't skip out on salad dressing. It's good for you. I also need some cilantro, but I think I left it in my kitchen. So I'm going to go grab that real quick. I do not know where my cilantro went to. So normally you would put about 2 tablespoons of cilantro in here. I really like cilantro, so I put the whole head. And you're just gonna pour that right on top. And then I'm just gonna mix everything really quick with here. And honestly, these salads are super easy to make. The longest part is just cooking the chicken. And if you have chicken tenders, it goes quick. It's like 5 to 10 minutes. Does not take long at all. Okay. So I've got it all mixed up in here. And the salad's really good. I've tried it before, and it tastes like a normal salad. It doesn't seem like you omitted the garlic or you omitted honey or you omitted onions. So this recipe will be sent to you guys via email once I get the YouTube link set up. I will be also sending you the YouTube link as well, and I can also send these slides. So yeah, thanks. Yeah, it's really good. You guys have to try it and let me know how you like it. So thank you guys so much for attending, and I hope to see you in my future classes. Next week, we're going to be going over portable snacking as well as, kind of some tips and tricks on how to portable snack. So thank you, everyone. Thank you.